Wow, that came up really fast. Hey, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, wherever you are in the world. You found it. This is ADRAMADA, another Dave Rush Ask Me Anything digital alchemy, our weekly get together, talk about technology, do a project, and just have a little fun. I was updating my document here and did the usual Dave Rutt typo. I am not TGE aforementioned. I'm not TJ. Anyways, so I am the aforementioned David Rush, your tech from Texas, and we're here because I love research and trying all kinds of technology. You love research and trying all technology types. Yeah, I can speak today. So this is a meeting of the minds, and so good to see you all. This show is devoted to disseminating information about technology and its uses, and in particular, we're interested in how the advancement of tech impacts our daily and our long-term lives. Topics are broad-ranging. We have a pretty good time here. Everything from electric cars to electric guitars and movies and music and the synergy of energy. From booting to computing and Linux to ethics and the chase to space. Love me some space stuff. Cyber to fiber, security to electricity, Raspberry Pi to Li-Fi and AI. And we're not afraid to delve into social topics, including religion and sex and politics and COVID. Keep it clean, keep it classy, but we'll talk about everything. I have a project today that is fun, amazing, fantastic, and blindingly fast. And I haven't packed up my schedule with all kinds of tech news, so we're going to find a way to fill time or finish early or something like that. If you are watching on archive, we did this on Thursday, October 12th. And if you put that together and think about it, for just 24 hours from the beginning of that time period, tomorrow, my time, it will be Friday, October what? Yes, tomorrow is Friday the 13th. And if you are a triskaidekaphobic, get over it. It happens a couple of times a year. Let's see who has arrived. Jason Helms, you're in early this time. So Tullowit, I like that, Tullowit. 30 hours to go. I can't believe that a message lasted that long. I always thought they disappeared in 12 to 24 hours. So still there. And so good afternoon to you, sir. Checked in again a half an hour before showtime. Just 20 minutes before Patricia Grace did. And she is in very wet Florida. You had some storms run through central and northern Florida. My sister is somewhere over on the west coast and near where tornadoes hit last night or yesterday, something like that. Today, I think they've still got watches going on. I checked in with her. She said weather was funky, but she didn't get hit by a tornado. So send the witness. We had wet last week. Man, we had wet last week. It was fun. Finally, because it's been months here since we've seen any appreciable rain. Yeah. This is useless trivia. I should wait, but I put it in my notes based on the opening graphic that I was going to do, and then I ran into that Johnny Quest one. I said, "Oh no, I got to put Johnny Quest up." But I had, and I will have. It's in my saved, ready to go up. An opening graphic for HR Puffin stuff. And as you go down that rabbit hole, I found this amazing. If you're my age, you know who HR Puffin stuff is, and you honor the memory thereof. And if you're much younger than me, not too awful much younger, 10, 15 years, you may have no clue who HR Puffin stuff is. But it doesn't matter. The trivia that I want to share with you about that, this is amazing, right? This is a program that was on when I was, I guess it was still on when I was between 5 and 10. I think it only existed for 2 years, 68 and 69, something like that. That's right. Can't get too little and you can't get enough. There were only 17 episodes of HR Puffin Stuff. Just 17. And that, having done that, I went down the rabbit hole. My next couple of months shows are going to have some kind of screenshot nostalgia opener from shows of my preteen years. And so, of course, I went into the Banana Splits. Man, I got trivia on Banana Splits all day long. And if you're so inclined, go look up the Banana Splits. I'm not going to give you the answer to this. Just I'll turn you loose on this one yourself. Go watch the opening credits from the Banana Splits, 64 or 65 through 69, and then listen to Bob Marley singing Buffalo Soldier. And I will tell you that Bob Marley was in the U.S. at the time the Banana Splits was on. I will also tell you this. I haven't had time. I've just found this in the last 2 days, but I will this weekend. I have a weekend of parking my butt right here because of some things that are coming up next week. I'm going to have to work all weekend here. But the Banana Splits got a movie. It was a series. It was an after-school series or a Saturday morning series. I think it was mostly after school. Again, late 60s, mid to late 60s. But after years and years and years and years and years, 40, 59 years, they got a movie in 2019. It's a horror movie. It's a gore fest. I don't know if I can bring myself to watch it. Wrecking my childhood. So, as we ever do, we open up the store then with Eep Op Ork Hey, welcome to ADRAMADA. I haven't posted this in a while, so getting caught up on things. And ADRAMADA has a Discord server. Everybody who's here watching live knows that. But the post-show views are going up and up every week. And so I mention it, but I don't always do that. So if you are so interested in continuing these thoughts and adding to them and whatever, join our Discord server. I just posted the link in the chat feed. And that's it. Work progresses on the shirts. They're designed, but the graphics that I used are not in keeping with what my shirt presser wants. So I've had to stop and go and begin recreating all of them. If I had 2 days to sit down, they would all be done, but such a thing doesn't exist. All right. I got this shirt last weekend. Ran into it while shopping. And I was like, oh man, that puppy's mine all day. And it was very expensive. It cost me $2. So, and it fits. It's the right size. I'm happy. I wore this to work today. We go into the office about twice a month, more if we have to. And this month something changed. We're only going in once a month, and today was the day. So I said, yep, this is the shirt to wear to the office today. You hear me, low but clear. Okay, I take that on faith that it is low. When I use this exact same setup and I record it over to my other computer for one of the other shows we do this week, the volume is loud and screaming. So I suppose I could bump this up and okay, nothing. I didn't get any feedback, so I hope it didn't hurt anything. But that should be about it. Jason Helms, how's it going, y'all? So I saw on a post on another Discord server that you and I have in common that you're having a heck of a week or a couple of weeks or recent time. So hope all is going well with you. Tomorrow may be a scary day other than the fact that it's the 13th. Well, Saturday is going to be scary for some people. I'm going to a native tribe with no technology, and I'm going to cast a curse on the sun and see if I can get them to worship me. Patricia Grace says, Palm Coast tornadoes just south of me. Hit the wee hours. Okay, you got some too, huh? They're very close. Get a little too little and you can't get enough. There was another show, Elijah. HR Puff and Stuff was live with human-sized puppets, people in costumes. And there was another show with a bunch of Brit actors. And I get one of the characters confused all the time. And I thought this character was in Puff and Stuff. And again, go down the rabbit hole. And eventually found out that, oh, it's not who I was thinking of. It was a totally different show. The Bugaloos. Because when you're a certain age and there's a pretty girl wearing a pink fairy outfit, well, we'll just leave that as it is, huh? Jason, I've heard it a lot as a kid. When I was mad, my dad would call me that. I just thought it was a phrase he made. I never heard anyone saying anything until now. HR thing. HR puffin stuff. Hanging in there like a rusty fish. I love when my missus is back in town. She makes fresh tea. I let tea sit for a week or two and it turns into slime. Hey, well, let's keep things rolling then as people gather steam and join. Last week, we showed how to protect your self-hosted or even cloud-hosted web server using Mod Security 2. Mod Security 2 is a modular web application firewall, a WAF, that protects web servers from unauthorized types of access. And this gives us direct protection of the web server, prevents malicious actors from using that web server as a base of operations to attack other hosts on the network. It's a good show. It was a good product. It was easy to do. We did it on an Apache 2 server. It works on a Microsoft IIS web server. It works on an Nginx server. I presume that it would work on an Angie server. I use that now over Nginx because all the stuff that you have to pay for, all the premium stuff you have to pay for in Nginx is free in Angie. And we did a show on Angie 5-6 weeks ago, something like that, maybe a little longer. Wasn't much longer than that. Anyway, so I've got it running on my web server. It's not the ADRAMADA server. What is it? The Pi Square server. And I feel much better when I go to sleep at night, not worrying so much about people hacking my whole network. For this week's project, I thought I would experiment with something that I use regularly, but I'm going to extend the premise of my use. Right now, I am using OBS-Studio, the streamcasting app. It's not the only streamcasting app out there. It is certainly the most popular. It's powerful. It's capable. It got all kinds of goodies and features to it. And it runs on Linux machines, it runs on Windows, it runs on Mac, it even runs on Android. It's okay, well, if we put all that together, does it run on a Raspberry Pi? And is it worth it? And so I took my studies last week, because I keep running into this when I do research on OBS. I want to know how this feature works or how to implement that feature. As you go down the rabbit hole, hey, it works on Pi, or here's how to install it on a Pi. So I thought I would go that direction. And as I look at the common tutorials that are out there, they're all one of two flavors. One, if you're using this version of Raspberry Pi OS, it's in the repository. Just install it. And if you're using older versions, you can use Pi apps. There's a script in there to install it. So I said, well, I'm using a current OS. It's in the repository. Let's give it a whack. And I sudo apt install OBS-Studio, and it installed right away. And then I launched it and got the most horrific, terrifying error messages, and there was nothing online about that. And I thought, yay! That makes me very happy, because now I've got a challenge. Hopefully it's a challenge that I can overcome. Hopefully it's a challenge that's not horribly long or challenging, but is enough to make an interesting show out of it. And I did find the answers. It's not too painful. So we're going to do installing OBS-Studio on a Raspberry Pi for today's project. And I may or may not do a show streaming from it. I've still got to do a little bit more testing. There's audio challenges that I haven't tried to overcome yet. I'm sure we'll get them. Oh, let's see. Now that the wrinkles are ironed out, I have installed it and uninstalled it so many times. This will not be one of my long drag out, man, it's a handful of commands. How can you stretch this into 45 minutes? It's a handful of commands. It's going to take 5 minutes. Maybe I'll stretch it out to 10. All right, let's see what else is going on in the world. Just a little bit of tech news. There's some good stuff going on out there. That's not it. But that is, I had this slide up last week, but today makes more sense because it's going to happen in 2 days. We have an annular eclipse coming up this Saturday, 2 days from today. If you're watching this on archive after Saturday, October 14th, you'll have to wait for the next one in this neck of the woods in the year 2039. So I hope you're seeing this before then, or got the news. And so you can see the path of totality goes a little south of Houston, continues up toward the northwest through San Antonio. My kid is about as far north from the path of totality as I am from it. And so I kicked him off a text note today. I said, look, dude, path of totality for you is in San Antonio. He said, already got the car packed, man. All right. Well, good for you. I could drive a couple hours south and catch it. We're a little concerned we're going to get some clouds. And I'm very concerned about that because next one is 15 years away or so. I don't know if I'm going to be around for another 15 years to catch that one. I have to go to someplace. Anyways, an annular eclipse is one that doesn't completely blot out the sun. If you are in the path of totality, there will be a ring of fire, the corona, around the moon as it passes. From where I'm at, I'm going to have about an 85 to 90% coverage. So there's going to be a thumbnail on the left, and it's going to be about 10:30 in the morning my time when it reaches near totality. Still going to be cool. Hey, really, really big news 2 days ago. Debian, a primary branch of Linux, not awful long ago, released their newest version. Now, Debian, as you may or may not know, names their versions. All Linux distros name their versions. A couple of them do numbers, but most of them do names. And Debian names theirs after characters in Toy Story. And they've used all the major characters. Bullseye and what was the one before that? Buster. And, I've never seen Toy Story. I don't know the names. So they released the newest one, Bookworm, apparently a very minor character. Most people who even are aficionados of the film don't remember Bookworm. He wasn't on very long, but that's the newest version. And so the Raspberry Pi folks, because they're Debian based, they start updating to take advantage of all the new features in the core kernel and the core OS. And they have released 2 days ago, October 10th, my time, Raspberry Pi OS Bookworm. And I'm going to give you the link so you can go read about it. I'm going to give you some of the interesting aspects of it. Bookworm is out. That sounds like a good thing to type. Enter. It's got some huge changes. And let me do them in the order of my notes here. It's available in 32-bit and 64-bit. We uses Linux kernel 6.1. Very, very, very few operating systems use the most current kernel, which I think is 6.5 right now, because a kernel is one thing to develop. An operating system is developed around the kernel, and all of the different pieces have to integrate with the kernel. It takes a lot longer to do that. And so here, outcome 6.1, they start working on it. And while they're working on it, outcome 6.2, hey, we're not done yet with 6.1. And 6.3 and 6.4, and finally they come out with it. The most important change is they changed the way the display system exists. The system I'm using right now, and probably most of you, uses what's called the X11 display system. They have converted that to Wayland. It's been on the books for a long time to do that. Bigger, better, smarter, stronger, faster, and a lot more common these days in other Linux distros. But that change is huge, and it breaks a lot of complex video-oriented applications. Some of them work in 64-bit versions, but not 32. So it's not perfect. If you need, for instance, VNC, which I need a lot, don't use the new operating system. Don't use Bookworm. Stick with Bullseye. All right. They worked real hard to make it look like the current X11, but the internals are very different. They used to use, in the version I'm using right now, an audio system called ALSA, A-L-S-A. And they have changed that, again, because a lot of people have changed this, to a new internal system called Pipewire. Pipewire is what OBS uses, actually, among other things. So, again, some audio things may break. They were using Pulse Audio and also over Pulse Audio. Networking has changed. To configure networking in all of the Raspberry Pi OS distros up to now, there are 3 different configuration files. Most Linux distros have moved away from that model, and they use a single management system called Network Manager, and there's 1 configuration file. So Raspberry Pi OS falls in line with that. They are including the version of Firefox that has been optimized for Pi video hardware acceleration. All right, now to a couple of the big pieces. 1, historically, it has always been, at least theoretically, possible to do an in-place upgrade. If you had Buster and you wanted to take that Raspberry Pi and turn it into, upgrade it into Bullseye, do this, do this, do this, do that, touch this, run that. Okay, congratulations, you're Bullseye now. That will not work here because the changes are so significant in so many areas, video, audio, and networking. They haven't made any tools. They aren't publishing any procedures, and they are recommending don't even try it. It's going to fail. And so if you're running Raspberry Pi and it's mission critical, back up what you've got, take notes, save your configuration files, and blow it away and do a fresh install of Bookworm. And then restore or reinstall apps, things like that. Anything wrong with Bookworm? Yeah, well, Real VNC doesn't work correctly on the 32-bit version. It kind of works on, it doesn't work correctly on 32. It does work on 64. Kind of works on 32, but you can't use the Real VNC client to view it. You have to use, they said they're having good luck using the Tight VNC client. A couple other things, some of the old recommended software has been removed from the image because it don't work. SenseHat, for instance, isn't supported under Bookworm. Magnifier is not supported. BlueJay and Greenfoot development environments, they're not compatible with Wayland. Sonic Pi, not compatible with Pipewire. These are all third-party programs, and they've been removed until their developers update them. So it's still exciting. I will install it, and I'll report on some of the things that we do in here. I found a nice tech news site. And it's not just, it's computer tech news, right? There's lots of sites out there that talk about everything from biomedical to aeronautics and avionics and whatever else you want. This one is geared toward computer tech. And I really like this one because it is not just geared toward computer tech. It's not like computer tech news. It's stuff everyday people can use. So I put the link for it. It's called technewstoday.com, and it's categorized in there. They do practical things. How to dim your cell phone. How to hide or unhide chats in Teams was an article I read today. How to use strike-through alternates, 5 or 9 different ways to edit Word documents if you don't have Word. And there's a bunch of categories: latest tech news, hardware tech news, computer tips, OS, gaming, and much, much more. All right, that is all the tech news that I have gathered on the day. Oh, except for this one. Man, I wrote that up. Where did it go? Okay, I'll do it from memory. I can do that. You know what's hard? Underwater communications. Okay, trying to move radio waves through water, the water just dissipates it in nothing flat. You can do audio waves, but they have to be very, very powerful to travel very, very long. The water dissipates them. Well, the nice folks at MIT have come up with a new way of modulating audio waves. I'm going to get deep into the tech, but with milliwatts of power. And by the way, that power comes from the vibrations of sound in the ocean running a piezoelectric crystal in each of these little transducer things you see in this picture, so that they can make sounds. And point to point, they always work in pairs here. But if we look at that left hand 2 pairs to the right hand 2 pairs, they're talking about kilometer plus ranges of underwater communication. So you can move data back and forth. You can use it to monitor sites, diver to diver, boat to boat, all kinds of neat things. And again, it's just using milliwatts of power. So, you know, all good things have a downside. We may find out that it drives whales insane. I don't know. But it's pretty cool tech. If you're a diver, you may take advantage of that someday. Swag and shirts. All right. See if I missed anything here. As a kid, Raspberry Pi. Patricia, still on Bookworm. Okay. Yes, it was supposed to be. Where are we at on time here? 28. I won't bore you with 2 horrifically long stories, but our washing machine exploded 3 weeks ago, and we ordered new ones last weekend. They're going to be delivered tomorrow. Yay. Complete with all the scammy crap that I hate. Oh, you want to buy this? Sure. This is $700 new. This is $400. Okay, we're in for $1,100. When can you bring it? How much is delivery and install cost? Oh, it's this much for each one. What about getting rid of my old stuff? Oh, that's okay. Well, we're in for a couple $100. I'm fine. Now they said you have to buy from us these new accessories. You got to buy a new power cord for your dryer. You got to buy a new vent kit for it. You have to buy new hoses for your washer. And by the time I had been done spending about $1,100, I spent $1,600. And they just bend you over. There was no way. I'll go buy a new cord. No. It's got to be ours. So I shot a couple people there and got away. But I think they're going to find me tomorrow when they come and deliver. When it blew up, we were having another problem. As you know, if you've watched the show in my life, we had an exploding hot water heater in the attic 2 years ago in November. And that took about a year to resolve. We've had hot water for quite some time now. But with many, many trips up to the attic, I discovered something unfortunate. Had my roof rebuilt, reshingled a few years back, and the reshingler missed two things. Number one, he didn't put in a vent for my dryer. And so I brought him back out and said, hey, get the vent in. And he did. And then I didn't pay it any attention. I didn't go double check him. My fault. Because while I was up there inspecting and watching all of the activities going on as they rebuilt all the damage from the destroyed hot water heater, they hadn't connected the vent pipe to the vent outlet. And that thing was just spewing lint all over my attic. I don't care. I don't go up there. It's not habitable, but it's got two problems. One, it's flammable. And two, because it's not connected to a vent, it's not all getting sucked out of the hose. And so that schmutz has been accumulating in there. And I basically have a clogged vent. So I started casting about for a pro to clean out all that. All I can tell you is the scam factor is high. And finally I found one, and we worked out, you're not going to charge me scam fees. You're not, and okay, we got one scheduled. We got a hard number scheduled. And that was yesterday. And I called a couple hours after they were due to call me and say, hey, we're a half an hour away. Oh, we didn't tell you, they were busy. Scam. I said, well, you got me over a barrel. I got to have this done the next day because I'm getting new equipment delivered. Oh, okay, I got a staff guy. You're the first job of the day. He'll be out there at 8 a.m. So he shows at 9, and he surveys the place, and we'd agreed on $100, $97. And he starts filling out the paperwork. He says, okay, it's $97. And then since we're going to have to go work on the vent on the roof, that's another $125. And I didn't shoot him. I got my bow and I put one in his thigh. So a couple phone calls to the office and that went away. Just all that stuff. It's like getting your carpet clean. I don't know if this happens in your area. They do this scam ad all the time. We'll do 3 rooms of carpet for $35. And then they come in and, oh, wait a minute. Your living room isn't a standard size. That's an extra $100. Ugh. I just hate that stuff. Hate. All right. Enough of that junk. Let's do a project. I'm going to spend more time setting it up here than I am doing the project. A little bit of story, a little bit of news, things like that. So there are 2 ways, if you look online for how to install OBS-Studio on a Raspberry Pi. One is if you have the current OS. And by the way, I'm very fearful about trying this on Bookworm because OBS-Studio is so graphics oriented and so audio oriented. I am very sure that it will break trying to run it on Bookworm. So I'm sticking with Bullseye for this. I will test it this weekend and let you know if I can get it to work under Bookworm. That's the problem. We got 3 B's, right? We did Buster, Bullseye, and Bookworm. Anyway, if you're not using Bullseye and you're using an older version, then install PyApps, says the tutorials, and then let it use its script. But things have changed since most of those tutorials were written, and it don't work anymore. But we've got answers, and we're going to do them. So quickie background here. OBS-Studio started out as a small project back around 2012. It grew rapidly. Lots and lots of online collaborators came in, worked on it, improved it, shared knowledge, built the program. The first version was released in August of 2012. And it was rewritten a year later and re-released under a new name called OBS Multi-Platform. Hey, we don't want to just run it on Windows or just Linux or just Mac or whatever. And so they made OBS Multi-Platform, and then they renamed that to OBS-Studio, which is where we are now. It's still multi-platform, got a very, very, very thorough feature set that continues to grow and grow. Ever since I started playing with it 2 years ago, it's gotten a whole bunch of new features. Very powerful APIs, so you can add plugins. They killed the classic version back in 2016. And in 22, just last year, OBS was released on Steam for both Windows and Mac. Oh, that's kind of cool. And I don't care about that. It takes 3 items to do your own stream. You need a camera. You need a streaming platform, someplace to stream it to, like YouTube or whatever. And you need a streaming application. So you're probably already 2 for 3. You probably have a camera. You probably already have a Google account, a Gmail account. That gives you the ability to stream on YouTube. And you probably have some other social platforms that you could stream to. So we're going to give you the third piece here, OBS-Studio. And again, not the only game in town. It is by far and away the most popular game in town, in part because it runs on Windows, Linux, Mac OS, Android, and ARPI OS is a flavor of Linux, but it's Arch Linux. It's Arch ARM architecture. Features and functions. If you're involved in creating online streaming content, you probably already have heard of OBS, Open Broadcaster System software, by the way, if you didn't know. And if you're not, it's an app that you're going to want to try, and you'll probably stick with it. I was using something else before OBS because it's got a little bit of a learning curve, and it scared me a little bit. But one day I said, well, I got to bite the bullet because it's got this feature that I want. I saw our old friend Steve doing something. I said, I got to do that. So I sat down one day and got it reinstalled and got it kind of configured. And well, here we are. Besides streaming video and audio, it streams images and application streams and all kinds of, you can stream just about any content. And again, there's plugins for more and more and more. It does stream source switching. It does recording. It directly integrates with all of the major streaming platforms and more, some that aren't popular. One of my favorite features is its ability to become a virtual camera. So I'll set up OBS and I'll say, here's what I want in OBS. I want a camera looking at me. I want it to be playing a slideshow. I want it to look at a Windows or a browser window and all that stuff. And then I want it to pretend to be a camera while it's doing all that. And then I can take another application like the Discord app and say, hey, don't use the regular real camera. Use the virtual camera that is OBS-Studio. And that's how I do some of my shows. So when I'm coming to head, a real camera is feeding OBS, which in turn is feeding Discord. And when I run the slideshow, it's the slideshow viewer in OBS, and it's sending it as if it were a camera to Discord. Supports all kinds of controllers. On one of my machines, I'm using a Stream Deck. It's just amazing. It's powerful. It's flexible. I run it on multiple hosts, sometimes simultaneously. On the computer that I'm using right now, I use it as a virtual camera to stream, and then I use it on another computer, on a different Linux computer over there, to record the stream. I need to do it that way because I use 2 different accounts. I use my Dave Rush account to stream, and then I use another account over there. Yeah, I know, it's confusing. You get the idea. All right, runs on 64-bit versions of ARPI, 32 as well. I'm doing this on a Raspberry Pi 4 with 4 gigs of RAM. Runs fine, they tell me, with 2. It's got a semi-fresh installation of ARPI OS, 64-bit, with the desktop. Got to have desktop because it's graphical. It's got a way too small card to use in the real world. There's a 16 gig micro SD card in there. It's the same machine I used last week and the week before. Last week I did a fresh install of 64-bit Raspberry Pi OS. We installed a LAMP server on it, Linux, Apache, MariaDB, and PHP. I added Mod Security 2 to it and a copy of PyApps. That's everything that was on there. And, I'm not going to do a fresh reinstall. Let's see if it'll work with that. And it does. Can I show a picture? Somebody else is on, or pan what setup you have so you can give a visual. Yeah. Yes and no. Most of this has to be description. I didn't make any pictures. Can I pan? No, that camera is hard mounted. What can I do here? Some of this will make more sense as I go on and we get the install going. How's that? So let me fire things up here. I kept this not running so I wouldn't crash, at least as rapidly as possible. So we wake this guy up. I'm firing up real VNC to my Raspberry Pi. Password Raspberry, PBERRY. Okay, that's running. And back to OBS. And we got to go look at this because this message that I just got is so ever exciting. You guys have probably already seen it and reacted and done the business here. There we go, man. He's here. So bookworm, wit confused by that description. Yeah, I know. Sorry. I will make this make more sense next week. I apologize. And it will make a lot more sense once we actually install it here. So let me at least try and resell that. Here's OBS. It's a program. It's an application. It has the ability to take inputs from a camera and from an image slideshow program. It's actually built into it. And a web page and. There's so many things on there that I can do. PuTTY, command line. So all that goes into OBS, and OBS sends that out to a streaming platform like YouTube. Now I got another program over here. It's the Discord application. And if I want to stream on Discord, I can. I can just say stream, go to a voice channel, and it detects a camera in my computer and says, okay, well, that's the camera that I'm going to use. Put your smiling face in front of it. And it has the ability to share one screen. So I can pop from head to a shared screen and then back to head. Well, this is one of the things that OBS-Studio can do. I take this OBS-Studio program and I say, look, program, instead of streaming to a platform, what I want you to do is pretend to be a camera. Take your digital output that you would normally format and send out as a digital stream to YouTube and make a different format as if you were a camera, put the same kind of output that a camera would do. Make yourself look like a camera. So now when I go into Discord, I say, I want to stream. It says, cool, there's two cameras on this computer. There's this live one, a Logitech 920 or a Brio or whatever I'm using. And there's another one that's got a funny name. It says OBS. Which one do you want to use? I want to use the OBS. So I work with OBS now. I change screens, I switch screens, and he's sending output as if it were a camera, and that's going into the Discord application, and Discord is streaming it out to all the Discord viewers. So Discord doesn't know that it's getting information from a program. He thinks he's getting information from a camera. That's what makes OBS a virtual camera. I'll do slides on that next week. Hey, it's so good to see Scott here. Thank you. I kicked him off a message this week. I haven't heard from Scott in a while. You guys probably haven't either. And I'm starting to sweat a little bit. And we do stay in reasonably close contact. So glad to see you online. I understand why you weren't online. And all is well with Scott. Good news. Spooky. I was just going to ask Dave if he'd heard from you. And just in case I had that question, I had an answer carefully formulated that I don't have to use. I wouldn't have lied. All right, so let's continue on here. We will commence by feeding OBS with a feed from Real VNC. So this is the Raspberry Pi that I used for the last 2 weeks. And we're going to install, it's going to be kind of small screen, but work with me. I'm going to install our software on there, our OBS-Studio. This is like incestuous. I'm going to be using OBS-Studio to show you how to install OBS-Studio. And then at some point, if everything works out well, they're both going to be working simultaneously. All right, let me get my correct notes. Show notes. I don't want show notes. I want this. There we go. All right, so if you go on to online and you look for the tutorials that say here's how to install it, it's not going to work because it's missing some pieces that need to be added, and there's some things that have to be done after the install. They're quick. They are painless. Now I always do this, and you should always do this before you ever do an installation of any kind. We'll open up the terminal here. Always do a sudo apt update, and then follow that up with a sudo apt upgrade -y. I always do them both together on one line. Sudo apt update ampersand, and then sudo apt, and because I'm old, we used to put the -y first, upgrade. And hit the enter key, and it'll do buzz, 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 grind, 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 and everything will get updated and current, and the world will be a happy place. So next, here's the first thing that they all miss. Now, I've installed this program about 47 times on this server and uninstalled it, same number of times. And I've discovered something kind of interesting. Some vestigial parts remain, and I haven't figured out how to get rid of them. And one of the impacts of that is the install goes a little bit quicker when I do these things, but we're only talking like 10-20 seconds differential. So we're going to first of all install some dependencies to make it work. Still going to fail. Don't worry. I'm going to show you the failure. I'm going to show you the fix. But they all miss this, and if you don't get this stuff installed, the libfdk AAC2, that's an audio handler, and here's another audio handler, it ain't going to work at all no matter what. So we hit the big enter key. Normally this would take about 20 seconds. It takes about 10 seconds doing this live. Cool, all done. And now we're ready to do what all the tutorials say to do. All you got to do is sudo apt install OBS-Studio. And this, if you're doing it for the first time ever, it's about 30 seconds. Oh, I forgot to do -y. You want to do it? Yes or not? Yep, there we go. But here with this subsequent reinstall, again, about 10 seconds. We're done. That's it. That's the install, except it's not going to work. So here's how you would launch it. We click the application launcher, the Raspberry up there in the left-hand corner, upper left. Hover over sound and video, and hey, there it is, OBS-Studio. So I click that, and oh my gosh, failed to initialize video. Your GPU may not be supported, or your graphics drivers may need to be updated. Man, that is horrible and painful and cumbersome and a lot to figure out. So I headed online to see how much work I had to do. And it turns out it's very simple. It's an environmental, not a variable, but it's an environmental shell that has to be set up before launching it. And so I'll show you how to do that. It's really, really simple. I'm going to click the Raspberry launcher again, hover over sound and video, and I'm going to hover over OBS-Studio, and I'm going to right click and select properties. And then I see some general properties. Here's its name. Here's a file that is the actual launch program, other information. Don't need any of that stuff. Here's the desktop entry. This is the command to execute it. It's just OBS. And that's what's failing. So let me do a copy paste here and show you what has to get put in as a replacement. So I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to Control V. Yeah, I am. Don't make me type this in manually, because I'll typo it. Control C. Click in here. Control V. There we go. Okay, so we're going to set up an environment with this env space. And then this is details about the environment that we don't have to understand. This is a graphics library, libgl. And we're always going to use software, not hardware encoding. And then a space. And then, now that that environment's been set up, we hit OBS. I'll okay that to save the changes. I don't need this thing open anymore. Exit. So now let's try and launch it again. Same way. Click the Raspberry launcher. Hover over sound and video. Click OBS-Studio. Are you ready for this? Bam! That's a different camera. That's a camera that's feeding the Raspberry Pi. It's going into OBS-Studio on the Raspberry Pi, and I am looking at it using VNC. So cool, huh? Where are we at on time here? Ah, wonderful. So I'm not going to do a class on how to use OBS-Studio. And by the way, the first time that you install this, it's going to stop and ask you a question or two. It's going to say, hey, what do you, let's look at that audio just blowing itself out. That's picking up from the microphone on the camera, peaking and getting all red there. It says, what do you want to stream to by default? And it'll give you a bunch of choices. YouTube's one of the choices. And then how do you want to connect to YouTube? Do you want to use an account login? Do you want to use an access code? And you can provide that, or you can skip it and provide it later. So this is where you see that stuff. If I look over here on settings, I haven't tried to do all this while streaming in OBS, but so I answered the question when I first installed it, YouTube using real-time multimedia protocol service. And it says, okay, how are you going to connect to YouTube? I'm going to use their primary ingest server. And then it asks me to copy and paste or type in the stream key from YouTube. No, I'm not going to share that one with you. Love you guys to death. Here's all kinds of other settings. This stuff is a bit of a learning curve. The defaults may or may not work for you. The biggest problem is, for most people, myself included, this video bit rate. It defaults to about 5,000, and that's maybe even 6,000. And at least for my feed, that's way, way too much. That was causing all kinds of crashes. So I got it down to 2,500. It's working great. All right. Studio mode allows me to have multiple screens being showed here on the preview. One of them is the what are we outputting right now, and one of them is what do you want to stage and get ready to show next. You can do up to 8 windows of that stuff. I can set this up to start recording. I can send this to its stream source. There's all kinds of controls in here. There's advanced settings in the audio mixers. You can add sources here. Let me do a right click and say add, and look at all these different kinds of inputs that you can do. And if I pick image, I don't have to pick one image. I can do it again and do another image. Or what I do for all the shows you guys are familiar with, I do an image slideshow. I set them all up in a folder. I set them up, name them in alphanumeric order so that they turn up in order. You get the idea. So here, let's set up an image slideshow. We'll call it image slideshow. It says okay. And then it says, all right, well, where do you want to get your images from? I'll add a directory. Now there's nothing in that Pi. So for now, we'll just say pictures and choose it and okay it. And now it's selectable. There is nothing in there. Oh, there was an image in there. Look at that. Let's resize that. Come here, you. Oh, Control S. Okay, Control Home to send it up there, and then Control S to full screen it. Hey, that's an image that was in that folder from some time ago. So pretty cool. I can do this all day. We could do 8 or 10 hours on this. I'm not going to do that. But I hope what you're seeing now, it looks a little bit slow because all the different paths that we're running through, but it works. And I see plenty of audio on there, so I'm going to be able to send this. I will do a show using that Raspberry Pi and that configuration in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And we will just have a blast. All right. That finishes the show content. We got another 6 minutes here. Let's see who's doing what and talk about all that. Scott! Why is Scott? Oh, Tull was saying Scott. Okay. You're both blue. I thought Scott was saying hi to Scott. All right. Everybody's doing Old Home Week. So, all right. Do I have anything here left in my notes? Came up, runs. I'm so excited about that. So, is this the best platform to stream from? Probably not, but it's a good one. And again, I'll know more once I actually do some real testing with that over the next few days. I've amused myself with some of my notes. Let me entertain me. When I do stuff like that, everything gets behind. I'm going to let things catch up here for just a second. Let me refresh this page and see if that was behind or if it was something else. Okay. We're fine. We are doing good. I'm not behind. Checking my notes here. So let's summarize what we did. OBS-Studio, right now, the most popular stream casting application in use. One of the things that it doesn't do that some people need is multi-stream. It can't send simultaneously to Discord and to YouTube. However, there are platforms that will do that for you. You stream to this platform and tell it to stream to this YouTube account and this Discord account and so forth. So that gets kind of cool, but it does require a third party. There may be a third party plugin. Thank you both. Wow. So I got to look at this. There's something going on here that I have never seen happen before. Do I share? Yeah, okay, I saw that. How can you show a picture or pan to show what's on it? Okay, that's Scott's message. We'll get there. I will definitely do a recap on this, on the explanation of it with diagrams and 4-part harmony. Anyway, so OBS, very capable, right out of the box, very powerful, and looks like runs fine on the Pi. It's coded in C. It's not Python or another interpreted scripted language. So it's very fast. Runs on lots of platforms, Windows, Mac, Linux, x86, ARM platforms, including, of course, our Pi. It's been released on Steam. So if you want to install it on your system and you've already got a Steam account, you can do it on Windows or Mac OS. The installation, you saw it, quick and easy. And it doesn't take much to learn the basics. You can be streaming in an hour or less after you've got it installed. And then with a little bit of learning curve, you can stream very well with lots of different inputs and features, and it gets fun. My notes. Next week, OBS-Studio on Raspberry Pi. No, that's not what's going on next week. Next week's a fun week. I am going to work all weekend for work because I'm going to be out of the office on Tuesday. I will be doing a Tuesday night show, those of you who watch that. You're brave, Dave. Yeah, I know. I felt terrified, but we've crashed before and come back in short order. So I will be out all day Tuesday. I will probably be out much of Wednesday, but I will be working hard to pre-make all that up on the weekend. But that's not going to give me a lot of time to prep for a show next week. So I don't know what I'm going to do. Something quick, easy, and painless. Or maybe I'll find something that's really cool. Hey, well, guys, that's just about everything. There we go. I thought that was kind of cool. Patricia Grace says, you are brave, and Scott says, go Astros, and I saw Braves and Astros, and wait a minute, the Braves are out of it. But yeah, Astros took their series last night. The missus and I watched most of that game, so they start up again. It's the Battle of Texas here in the next couple of days. And and the rest of baseball is happening. I'm not much of a baseball follower fan, but I'm a good hometown fan and enjoying that part of it. All right. Well, I wish you, let's close this thing up, a great rest of the week. Take care of each other. Take serious steps to stay healthy. And if at all possible, call or visit your parents. And never forget, technology is great, but the greatest resource we have are you and I. And with that, good night. I will see you on ADRAMADA next Thursday and on the other platforms that I'm on between now and then. Hope you get a chance to see the whatever of the eclipse is possible for you. I'm shooting for the best experience I can here. Until then, remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. Eep, op, ork, ah. Later, all.